right way. C-section, I treated you really different. Never lie. Show, where I'm your host, Ms.Dria, and here I have with me my beautiful co-host, Lady T.
Right here.
And here with us, we have former officer, Mr. Raymond Hicks. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Now tell me first off, where are you from?
I'm actually from Vero Beach, Florida.
Okay. And do you live here in Miami?
Yeah, I live here in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, okay. Oh, you live in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, perfect. So I hear that you're going to talk to us today about some serious issues that are going on and that have been going on in the police force.
Yes, that's correct, Dria. You know, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight.
I appreciate you for coming.
I just want to thank you for affording me the opportunity to be here.
Anytime.
Thank you.
So please tell me, just enlighten us, because I'm aware that you have a story. And it at one point it took headlines, and I didn't know of it, but I recently found out about you, and there are a lot of things that are going on today and that have been going on that regular people, such as myself, who are not inside of the police force, not, just watching the news, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, I guess you would say.
That's correct. And there's so many things that happen behind the scene that the citizens will never know about unless you're working in law enforcement. And of course, I've written a powerful book titled "I'm Still Standing."
Okay.
And this book was actually released on June 25th, 2015.
Okay.
And
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a bestseller.
Congratulations.
It's actually a bestseller of 2016 as well, thus far.
Where can we get it at? I'm sorry, I just want to put that out there real quick.
Yes, you can actually purchase the book from Amazon as well as Barnes & Noble, Kindle Fire, and your public library.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and in the book, you talk about, what is it now?
Yes, I talk about the struggles that I went through when I actually started working with the narcotics operation in Broward County.
Okay.
And we were combating street-level narcotics cell. Okay. And I started out with BSO back in 1986. Wow. I was 21 years of age, right out of college, and I started working in the jail. And I used to hear some of these young brothers come in, they talked about how there was so much corruption. And I'm saying, I can't believe everything that y'all telling me, how you're saying drugs been planted on you, you're constantly being beat to the ground. I said, you guys you got to tighten up, So, again, I look and I truly thank God, for making contact with these inmates, because, a lot of them was telling the truth, Bria. And one thing I say is that I think it should be mandated, that the federal government take a personal interest in a lot of these things that's playing out with these insensible killings that's going on in today's society right now. And the reason why I say that is because I became a victim of the said corruption when I began to speak out against corruption within the department.
Wow. So let me ask you, okay, first off, did you have anything at some point in your career, when you noticed what was going on, were you a part of it? Well,
I would say that I was a part of it, but I was not a part of it, because I was not a part of corruption.
Okay.
And one of the things that I always stem from is I tell guys, if you're wrong, then they need to throw the book at you.
Right.
But if you're right, stand up for what is right. Don't go in there and admit to something that you have not done.
Right.
Why? It's because of the fact that it's going to hunt you for the rest of your life.
Right.
So, of course, I actually became a victim of the said corruption.
Okay.
Now, granted, my father, he didn't like law enforcement and always sterilized how he would take a cop life, because there was always a run-in with the law. So that's what inspired me to go to college, and if I didn't make it in football, I said I would go into law enforcement.
Okay.
And, of course, what my father imparted with me, Drea, it became reality, because when I spoke out against corruption within my department, it became my dilemma.
Right. Did you fear that at all?
I never feared anything. The only thing that I fear is God,
Okay.
I don't look at man, as intimidation or inferior factor, because man bleed the same blood as I do.
Exactly.
The only thing that I'm afraid of is my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
All right.
When it comes down to man, I'm never going to run from man, you know what I mean? Because, again, they're no bigger, stronger than I am, you know? But God, that's something different.
Okay. So what took place, when you did decide to speak out against
Well, I was working with the narcotics operation.
Okay.
We were combating street level narcotics sale, and the Broward Sheriff Office was manufacturing the drugs and giving to us to be sold in the street, and of course they kept the proceeds. And I said to myself, this is entrapment. But there was also planting drugs on black offenders and beating them to the ground and taking money from them. And I said, this is morally wrong. This is totally unethical, you know. And I don't want to get engaged, indulge in this type of practice. And of course, I didn't want to get involved, but when I said something about it, again, that became my dilemma. When I was arrested by my former department, the Broward Sheriff Office, and I was detained for almost 2 years, faced with natural life imprisonment, where they said that I went to various states delivering 350 kilograms of cocaine.
Wow, wow, wow. And that was all false.
It was all fabricated, yes.
Wow.
To silence my request for justice.
Wow. Wow, Lady T.
It's kind of hard to fathom that something of this magnitude is taking place, even though we've seen the movies. We know, and I'm being facetious, we know there was a famous comedian, Dave Chappelle, where he told a joke and a web of stories where the guy would beat the guy down and then he would give him some crack. That's all. Or give him some drugs or whatever. And then they arrested a 5-month-old kid and just put the drugs on him. So we know that happens so much till we've become numb to it. My thing is, I admire you because you stood up where you was already working there. That could not have been easy to do. Yeah. And one would think that you would probably do it a different way, as opposed not to tell them to their face that I'm going to tell on you, but just get your information and then stockpile your information and come after them that way. But I admire you because you didn't fear anything, and you stood up and you just told them what you had planned. And that was why they came and bum rushed your house and went through a whole series of other things that took place. And were you still employed with the department at that time?
Yes, ma'am. When they stormed my home on June 15, 2000, they actually said to me, we're gonna suspend you pending the outcome of this case. And of course, while you're on suspension, you know, then whatever happens in the end, you know, we would deal with that at a later date. So of course, they went into my residence. They took my uniforms, all of my credentials, you know, my identifications, and next thing you know, they placed me in handcuffs and placed me in the backseat of a cruiser, and they transported me down to the district. But they never told me what they was arresting me for when they stormed my home on June 15th.
Wow.
I didn't learn that until the next day. They took me over to the city jail. They first took me to one of BSO subdivisions, and they booked me in there, and then they transferred me over to the city jail. And the next morning, the marshals showed up, and I said to myself, wait a minute, why are the marshals showing up, you know?
Oh, wow.
This is BSO who arrested me, so why is the marshals showing up? So I began to question them, you know, why are you all here? They said, well, we're here to take you to court. I said, for what? I said, no one has told me anything about what I did or what I did wrong or whatever the case may be. I've never been in trouble, Lady T, in my entire life, ma'am.
Wow.
I was a highly decorated officer. I was a Gold Cross recipient, a Silver Cross recipient, 2-time deputy of the month.
Oh, wow.
And lo and behold, they take me into court, and when they get me in court, the prosecutor says that when Mr. Hicks is at work, he's in the top 10% of the people who he worked with, the sheriff department. But when he's not at work, he's into other curricular activity.
Oh, okay.
So I began to look at my mother and my wife and say, what are these people talking about? You know, other curricular activity. I'm working every single day. And of course, that's when she said that I went to various states delivering 350 kilograms of cocaine.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Now, is that legal? I've always thought that when you get arrested, there's certain things that they must say, even if they have to carry that little card with them to read. You have the right to remain silent.
Miranda.
If you have, that's what I thought. Don't they have to tell you what you're being arrested for and then Mirandarize you?
Yes, ma'am. And they never read me my Miranda
Miranda
rights.
rights.
And the thing about it is that they never said to me what they were
What
taking
you were
me
being
into custody
arrested for.
Wow.
So that
Yeah.
So at this point, am I sitting next to a millionaire? Because obviously, I mean, all I can see is cha-ching, cha-ching, and just let them stockpile all of their mistakes, and then hit them where it hurts.
Well, you know, it's amazing because as I was telling Dria, you know, I sat there, and when I got at the federal detention center in Miami, you know, they strip searched me and treated me like I was the lowest scum on the face of this earth. And then they placed me in isolation, and I stayed there for 5 months, total darkness.
Oh, wow. What did they use? Was that under the guise of suicidal?
No, they didn't say anything about suicidal. They just said, we were going to put you up here because you was a deputy, and we're going to isolate
For
you
your own
from
safety,
okay. From general population.
Everything has to have a justification.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But
And, you know, of course, I stayed there for a total of about 5 months. They only allowed me 1 hour to come out for recreation. And as I was telling Dria, you know, I worked up to about maybe 1,000, 1,500 push-ups, and I was doing that like every other day in order for me to really go to sleep, you know,
Right.
because it was so difficult for me, you know. And, of course, I began to pray and fast as well, you know, while I was there. The food that they was giving me, I didn't want to eat the food because I felt like someone was spitting in the food, whatever the case may be. I'd say no. And just lo and behold, I figured about maybe like after the 5 months, they placed me down in general population. That was the only way that I could actually speak with my wife and my kids,
Yeah.
you know, to check
have
on them.
visitation rights and
Yes.
everything after that.
so you know, you stated to me that putting someone, you know, like you in general population, that was, you know, they thought going to be bad.
Yes. Well, it's really a death threat to an officer. When you take an officer and you place him in the general population, and of course I was there with 8 guys who I was over when I worked in the jail. And of course there was one gentleman who actually saw my picture paraded over the newscast, and he said, "Oh, you that effing cop?" I said, "You got a problem with me, man?" He said, "Yeah, I got a problem with you." And one of the guys remembered me from working on the second floor in the jail, and he said, "Man, you really don't want to mess with Hicks, you know, because you got a fight on your hands." So he said, "F Hicks, you know, I hate cops." And of course I told, you know, I said, "Listen, you's a freaking coward. You and I, we can go in the room, we can handle this." You know, we went in the room, him and I, we agreed, and of course I literally tried to beat him to death, to be honest with you.
Wow.
And after that, you know, I really didn't have no more problems. And, you know.
Yeah, because you was one of them. How many packs of cigarettes you got? Oh, I'm joking. No, I'm making light of a very serious situation right here because I understand where he's coming from.
Right.
You were from this side of the law. Now you're on the other side of the law,
Right.
and they had to protect you. And then you have some people who, justifiably so, they upset because of their situation with the police, and you represent whatever's in their head of their situation with the police. So that part I can get. What I can't understand is, you know, this whole timeline that you went through from 2004 to 2016. You wrote your book. You're out now. Now you're in the community sharing your story. But why did we not hear that those guys were arrested for the criminal acts that they committed against you?
Well, see, this, you know, everyone have asked that question. First and foremost, I have never been afforded opportunity to speak publicly.
Wow.
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 Did you have to sign something, some type of
No,
agreement?
ma'am. No, I never signed any agreement. The media basically have turned their backs against me.
Yeah, they.
And it's just unfortunate that they've never allowed me an opportunity to talk about what happened
And
to
tell
me.
your side of the story.
Wow.
And I've never ever seen anything like that because normally when a deputy is arrested, you know, and that person is exonerated from court, you know, the media is there to ask questions. Hey, you know, what happened in your situation? How, you know, how did you get through it? How did your family get through it? What all did you experience? You know, a question of that, of those nature. And for some reason, from that day to this day, I have never been afforded opportunity to talk about what happened to me.
What I was asking.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I couldn't understand. I just can't. understand the fact that no one, and it's like they just living their life as if nothing happened when they disrupted yours.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
stole,
Exactly.
in essence, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of your life. Here we are still talking about it.
Yes.
Right.
And see, this is the thing, and that's why I wrote my book, because I didn't have an opportunity to tell Lady T and also Dria, is that after the second arrest, you know, when they said that I was shooting at someone in my backyard, the judge said, well, where's the victim? We don't have a victim. Did you do a ballistic test?
Exactly.
They said, no, where the bullet casing? We don't have any. So within 10 minutes, I was tried by the courts, but I was acquitted by the judge. So I went back into the community, and I won the highest award, the African American Achievers Award, from JM Financial, where I helped over 25 kids accomplish a high school diploma and GED, and my
Wow.
mother at the age of 55, and my brother at the age of 32.
Wow.
And they came back a third time. The Broward Sheriff Office stormed my home a third time, and at this particular time, they were literally looking to take my life. And when they stormed the house at gunpoint, it was my oldest daughter and my son. He was actually 4 years of age at that particular time, you know. And I said, "What is this about?" But they wouldn't tell me what they was arresting me for. And I said, "What do you mean? You got a warrant for my arrest, but you won't tell me what you arrested me for?" And lo and behold, one of the deputies got into an argument with the sergeant because I was bigger than what I am now, and I couldn't get my arms in back of me. And the sergeant said, "Put the effing cuffs on him."
Wow.
And of course, they began to argue with each other. Make a long story short, the sergeant saw that the deputy was not going to back down, you know. So that, of course, they gave me a double set of cuffs. They put me in shackles, and they transported me down to booking. And when I got there in booking, that's when I learned that they charged me with child abuse. I said, "Child abuse?"
Oh my goodness.
I said, "What child have I abused? I just won the highest award in the community." And lo and behold, the prosecutor did a thorough investigation. She threw the case out, no prosecution.
So this is 3 times that things have either disrupted, been thrown out, no charges made, and still these people are allowed to continue living as if nothing happened?
And that's because
I've
I've
heard
gone
the
to
third
some of...
time is the charm.
Yes, ma'am. But you know, what's amazing is that I've gone to all the incumbents, the politicians, and spoke to them and said, "Hey, listen, you know, this is what transpired in my situation." They literally kicked me out the door.
Wow. Yeah, it's like you've been blackballed.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, and it's a terrible thing.
If there's any advocacies or any of you guys just watching us that have a great aunt or a big mom or auntie or someone who works with advocacy programs, this would be a case that I would take. If I had the funds, I would try and get a lawyer. And you have lawyers right now who, if they don't win anything, you don't owe them anything. But this is a case right here. This really is.
Well, you know what's amazing, Lady T, is that my attorney who was representing me, BSO finally gave me all my years of service. They gave me 3 years of back pay that accumulated to $100,000. Wow. They expunged my record. I received a certificate of eligibility from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement of them expunging my record, but my civil case has not been resolved yet. And the reason being is because they had to disqualify the judges.
Wow.
So it was from the top all the way down to the bottom. I'm surprised they didn't, once they put the double shackles on your wrist, they didn't just throw down some crack and say, okay, he had that too. It sounds like this was all made up and already planned. This was premeditated to bring you down. Yeah. You obviously stepped on some toes or pissed some people off.
Yes, but you know, one thing is
yes.
But one thing is for sure is this. I'm a firm believer, you know, when you as a law enforcement official, you take an oath
and obligation.
Yes, you take an oath and obligation to uphold the law. But what gives us a right to go out, you know, and belittle, degrade people because of our status? You know, we're supposed to be the salt of the earth. We're supposed to set the example for the peoples of society, not take the law and basically use it to the best benefit of ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
And see, this is what's going on in society today. And the only reason why a lot of these things are being exposed is because of these cameras that we have, these smart cameras.
Yeah. Right.
People are videoing a lot of these different
because
things.
we didn't have access to it before. And when we heard of a case over here, one way over there, we had no idea that there was 50 million going on right there in the neighborhood and right up under our noses that we didn't have or wasn't able to capture and magnify for people to see.
Right.
That's what that was.
But see, this is the thing. The citizen will never see what goes on behind closed doors. Because a lot of law enforcement officials are not going to come up to the table or to the plate and say, hey, listen, my colleague was doing this or doing that. Why? Because there's a code of silence in law enforcement. But see, I don't believe in the code of silence because one thing is for sure, again, we're the salt of the earth. We're supposed to set the tone. When I was a young kid, I was fascinated by cops. Why should I be afraid of the people who are supposed to be serving and protecting the peoples of the community? So again, I say to myself that we're supposed to set the tone for the peoples of society. And I will admit and say that there's a lot of great cops that's out there. A lot of my brothers and sisters out there who are putting their lives on the line each and every day to protect the citizens. But the ones that are doing wrong and that are getting away with it, these people need to be brought to justice.
Right.
But my question to you and the peoples out there that's listening, who polices the police?
That's what everyone wants to know.
That's
what everyone wants to know. Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
who polices the police. Yes.
But there is a higher governing law that's supposed to protect law enforcement as well as the citizens. And I've exercised my rights. I've sent information to Department of Justice, FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, President Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Tabitha Smiley, Steve Harvey, Dr. Phil. I could just go on with the list of people who I've sent my information to, crying out and asking someone, can y'all please look into this situation, what's going on in my life, because it should have never happened to me.
exactly.
But from that day to this day, nothing has ever been done about what these men and women has done to me and my family. And we lost everything.
Right.
And we became totally indigent and destitute.
Wow.
Oh man.
So let me ask you, with the climate, and that's going on with police and everything that's going on today, how do you feel about that?
Well, these insensible killings that's taking place on a daily basis, Dria, it doesn't have to happen. If they start disciplining these people, whether it be the citizen or law enforcement, the insensible killings will stop. If a law enforcement is found to be guilty of a crime that he or she has committed, and if the courts see that they have factual information, they should punish that person to the fullest so that these crimes will not continue. But yet still they covered up. That's why I've said that it should be mandated that every man or woman who wears a uniform, they should be wearing a body cam. Why?
Yeah.
It's because it protects the citizen, it protects law enforcement,
Yeah.
but most importantly, we need people from the community who can actually sit down, permanent people from the community who can sit down and review these footage so that the videotape does not get altered.
Yeah, that is true. I actually saw a video. It was a homeless man. I believe he was homeless, and he was walking up and down the street, and they were telling him to get out of the street. And one of the officers had a body camera on, and they said, I'm gonna shoot you, if you don't come back. He was just walking down the street with a hammer. I believe he didn't want to get arrested. And one of the officers, he covered up his camera, and when he took you heard pow, pow. And when he took the camera off, he was on the ground. He was shot.
But see, this is what I'm saying. If you take the incident that happened up in Louisiana, that didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
Because, and it's strange to me, all these things that's playing out. Am I against law enforcement? Absolutely not. Because I was one myself, and it was something that I love, and I love doing it. But I didn't do it to belittle, degrade people. I did it to protect people,
Right.
and also to let young people know that, listen, this is a great job. It has great benefits, great pay. When you're there for X amount of years, you can get a decent pension where you can, support your family. But in the same token, again, my question to you all is, and out there, is who police the police? Because these people are getting away with the things that they've done. How is it that I've been arrested 3 times for crimes that I have never committed? I served almost 2 years, faced with natural life imprisonment, but yet still every person that was involved in my case is still working at the Broward Sheriff Office as a higher-up administrator.
Wow.
Captains, lieutenants, commanders, sergeants, you know, it's lieutenant colonels. And you say to yourself, like, so there's poisonous venom, it's continuing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's continuing.
They're covered because of that good old boy society. And when you joined that society, you were supposed to join with the same rules that they had. We're not going to squeal on each other. We don't rat out each other. We're going to play by the rules. And you were one of the ones to say, hey, this is not right. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And I know some fellow people in my family members who got caught up in entrapment. Wasn't in Broward, but entrapment is entrapment.
Right.
I mean, a crime is a crime, okay? But it seemed like only one side, the officers follow the rule. They're being treated nicer. I'm trying to make it as easily digestible as possible. So I might screw this up, y'all. Okay, they are under the rule of habeas corpus. Every man is innocent until proven guilty. However, for the other side, for us, I feel like that rule is out the window. Nobody don't even think about that. Nobody don't even raise their hand and say, Judge, can I buy a vowel? Because you already in handcuffs and you already perceived as guilty.
Right.
So it's just an unfairness that's just encircling this whole thing, and it starts from the top. That corporal is going to be a sergeant. That sergeant is going to be a lieutenant. That lieutenant is going to be a captain. That captain is going to be a chief. Yada, yada, yada. Before you know it, that's your next mayor.
Wow.
And see, this is the problem that we're faced with in today's society. You know, they never even caught, first of all, you know, if someone go out and commit a crime, okay, the law enforcement have a duty and responsibility to investigate, to see whether or not that person has committed that crime.
One would think.
Right. But they never even called me in for questioning. BSO never called me in for questioning. Internal Affairs has a duty and responsibility that if an officer goes out and does something wrong, they're supposed to call that officer and place him on administrative leave while they conduct their investigation.
Right.
Internal Affairs never conducted an investigation with my situation. They never interrogated me.
Wow.
They just showed up at my home and took me into custody and basically said nothing to me about why they was arresting me, and I didn't find out until later that very next day.
In the marshal.
Yes.
In the US.
And there I am sitting there.
FDLE was involved, you said, right? FDLE, that's a federal, that's fed.
I called FDLE. When I came home, I made contact with them, and I sent them supporting documents of everything that transpired in my situation.
Right.
From that day to this day, they basically sent me letters that I have in my possession, you know, and I kept in a safe place where they said, well, we're going to forward this information back to Internal Affairs.
Oh, wow. Were you ever a part of a PBA, local police union, Black Officers Club, any of those affiliations?
Yes, ma'am. I was actually a member of PBA, and I was also a member of the FOPE.
I don't know your guy's name from Broward. Ours is John Riviera. Do you think that PBA was, indecisive or unable to assist you?
No one from the union. And as a matter of fact, I paid my union dues. They never did anything to investigate whether or not I did anything wrong. No one ever called me from PBA. No one ever called me from FOPE to see if I had committed any crimes. I reached out to the NAACP, you know. I reached out to the Innocent Project in New York. There's so many different companies that I've spoken to. The ACLU, I reached out to them as well. And to this day, no one have ever said anything to me. But I truly believe the reason why they've never allowed me an opportunity to speak about it is because a lot of heads were rolled, you see, in reference to what they've done. So therefore, just because I'm just one person, they think, well, you know what? Hey, listen, we're not gonna sacrifice this ship, you know, just for one individual. We're gonna throw him off the boat. You know what I mean? And we'll continue at smooth sailing. But one thing is for sure, as I've said to my mother, my wife, my kids, and my friends, and my associates, acquaintances, if anything happened to me, I'm hoping and praying that y'all will continue to push this case, because this is one of the biggest cases that ever been seen. If you talk about American Gangster, Reuben Hurricane Carter, Training Day, Serpico, I'm a modern day Serpico.
That's what I thought about.
I'm a modern day Serpico. The only difference is that I have not been shot in my face. But one thing is for sure, these people literally want to take my life from me, and I know this to be a fact.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I say, I look up and I say, Lord, and I built a relationship with God, and I channeled the anger and put it into motivation. And my motivation is to go out and continue to inspire young youth, about the law, and help them understand that don't get yourself caught up in certain situations.
Right.
You know why? Because it could be detrimental.
Right. Are you planning on writing another book?
Well, to be honest with you, at some point I think I will write another book. If the Lord,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
ma'am. And because this book here, when you go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Kindle and you look up "I'm Still Standing," and everyone that have read my book, it's a 5-star at 100%. And they said to me, "Oh my God, Ray, forget about a movie." The lady who actually edited my book, she's a former editor of the National Enquirer.
Wow.
The she's the chief editor of the National Enquirer, and she said, "Raymond," she says, "forget about a bestseller book. This is going to be a movie." The young lady who put my book together, here are people that I have never even sat down and conversed with,
Right.
except for one of them.
Right.
And she says, "Raymond," she said, "let me tell you something." She said, "if I've never read a compelling story,"
Wow.
she said, "this is amazing what you and your family have endured and
Yeah.
what you've gone through."
It is.
She said, "I can only imagine how you and your entire family have suffered and suffered tremendously." My mother said to them, she said, "I'm willing to put my head up on a chopping block, and you can cut my head off if you can show me that son right there have committed the crime that you have alleged and said that he has committed."
Wow.
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 Oh, my
That's
goodness.
heavy.
Do you have kids?
Yes, ma'am. I have 3 beautiful kids. I have a 29-year-old daughter, Martrice, and I have a 23-year-old daughter, Raven. I have a 14-year-old son, Raymond, and of course, my wife, Patrice.
Very good. So this is a teaching moment.
Yeah.
What you're going through, you're able to take your life story and share it with your kids. How do they feel about this?
Well, my kids are hurt. My oldest daughter, there are times that she won't get involved with a lot of these different things that's going on, because now she's in the school system. She loves kids. She inspired them. I've told my kids, do not let this become a stumbling block in their lives, but it should elevate them to trust more in God, knowing that He is God and He'll move in due time. And my kids have gone on and excelled tremendously academically, where they all graduated from college. My oldest daughter graduated from FAU. She was in the top 3% of her class.
Okay.
She won the Honor-American Society Award.
Okay.
My youngest daughter, she has a 3.97 GPA. She's going to graduate this December.
Okay.
My son, straight A student.
Very good.
All advanced classes. He has over 4.0 GPA. And I must mention to everyone out there that's listening, as well as you all, Miss Lady T and Ms.Dria, I went back to college and I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and forensic science.
That?
And I graduated with a 3.97.
Congratulations.
So, I
Yeah,
just look
yes.
up and I thank God, because nothing is going to hold me back.
Right.
Take this moment to look in that camera. Continue to look in the camera.
Yes.
And tell your kids that you love them and Dad is not going to give up.
Yes, well, Martrice Raven Jr., I want you all to know that I love you, and Dad is not going to give up. I'm going to continue to fight until God says that it's over. And until God says it's over, I'm going to continue to fight for what I believe in, for what I stand for. Why? Because I know that God has built a shield around me from the crown of my head to the sole of my feet. And I truly want to thank Lady T and Ms.Dria, as well as my man AD, for allowing me an opportunity to be here tonight, to be able to talk about, what went on in my life, because this is the very second time that I've had an opportunity to talk about what happened to me. And I'm grateful. I'm humble. I don't have any ill feelings towards anybody. My mindset is to continue to make a difference in the community for the young kids.
Perfect. I want to thank you so much on behalf of us and on behalf of so many individuals who are out there listening to your story, who have heard about you and the information that you give, because you're speaking, you're a voice for the community, and you're letting it be known that not everyone is doing something wrong. You know, sometimes things happen like this and people get caught up in situations. So I want to thank you for taking the time to share your story and shed some light on what's going on and what has been going on for a long time.
To have you here. I'm honored just by meeting you and hearing your story. And after everything that you've gone through, you still use the word, the adjective we. The department, we are supposed to protect and serve. You're still including them as your family, even though your family is treating you like the black sheep. I like that. I really
well, you know, not every man or woman who wears a uniform is a bad person.
This is true.
And it's unfortunate that the good ones has to suffer for the bad.
Right, this is true.
And that's why, you know, I think it should be mandated that the higher up administrators need to actually look at themselves and find out what's really going on and make a decision that some of these people who go out there and commit these heinous crimes, they need to be brought to justice.
This is
Why?
true.
Is because that will stop a lot of these different killings and all this other stuff that's going on in our community. Because these cops has families as well.
Right.
They have kids as well.
Right.
But so do the citizens.
Right.
You see?
We're all equal.
You know, so we do matter. You know, when you talk about Black Lives Matter and a lot of these other people who are actually advocating for the black people, see, this is the thing. You know, someone needs to step up to the plate in law enforcement and said, hey, enough is enough. It starts from the upper administrators and come down. So if the upper administrators are corrupt, so you can only imagine what the other officers are going to be doing.
Right.
Because I tell you this, a lot of them don't want to come forth, Tria, Lady T, because they're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. They won't be able to take care of their family, you know, because look at me. I mean, we lost my home. We were given 24 hours to be kicked out the door. I applied for food stamps. I couldn't get it. I applied for unemployment. I couldn't get it. I had to take a job putting down sewer ladders and water services.
Wow.
See, this is the thing. And that's why I look up and I say, Lord, you know, I truly thank you for sustaining me. And also I just want to say to all my friends out there and family members who have supported me 110%, I just want to say that I love you all. Thank you so much for your support, your prayers, and your genuine just love, you know, and I just want to just say thank you so much. And truly to this day, from my heart, you know, I love you all. And again, I just say thank you.
That is excellent. Yeah. I want to thank you so much for coming by the show. Do you have any like social media or for individuals to get in contact with you, whether, you know, they may be dealing with the same type of situation or something like this may have happened, they want to communicate with you because you have more insight?
As a matter of fact, I do have my Facebook page, which I started out with maybe 20 or 30 some people.
Okay.
I have a total of almost 3,000 now.
Oh, wow.
You can't find one negative comment on there about me.
Okay.
My email address is raymondhicks2305@gmail.com.
Okay.
My personal phone number is 954-347-3361. So you can reach out to me, and I'm also on Instagram. So, you know, it's Raymond Hicks, 2305. So again, I just look up and just say, Lord, I thank you for each and everything, and most definitely this opportunity to be here tonight on the Dria Show.
Anytime. It was a pleasure having you, and I appreciate you for coming out, like I said, and shedding light on your situation and letting other individuals know what you've gone through and helping them out because you have helped someone. You've helped someone.
What was your Facebook again?
Yes, my Facebook page is Raymond Hicks.
Raymond Hicks.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And everything else is Raymond Hicks 2305.
Yes. My Gmail account is raymondhicks2305@gmail.com. Yes.
Perfect. So I want to invite you whenever you release your next book, because like Lady T said, you have more of a story to tell. Yes, whenever you release your next book, if there's going to be a movie, I invite you back to the Ms.Dria show and, you know, to promote it and get it out there and let us know because I'm interested.
And you know what? And I appreciate that. And Dria, you know, Lady T, AD, I just can't thank you enough for affording me the opportunity.
You're very welcome.
And if there's a movie that become of my book, I would love for you all to be a part of it. Why? Because one thing is for sure, I'm a firm believer that, and I said on camera, I'm a firm believer that you gotta, it take a village to raise a child, but in the same token, it take a group of people who can build a foundation.
Yes.
And it's not just about me, it's about all of us collectively. You have to start from somewhere. So you can't forget about where you come from.
Exactly.
So again, I'm not that kind of person. If God bless me, I'm hoping and praying that he will continue to bless you all as well.
I appreciate you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate
And I
you so much.
appreciate you all. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. Please stay tuned to the Ms.Dria Show. And when we come back, we'll come back with so much more.